The airport buzzed with its usual chaos, wheels of heavy suitcases rolling across the polished floor, muffled voices echoing through the high ceilings, and the constant drone of flight announcements. But for me, everything faded into the background the moment I saw Emily step through the arrival gate. She had been gone for an entire month, 30 days that felt like a lifetime. She said she needed time alone, a solo trip across Europe to find herself and gather inspiration for her art. I stayed behind, telling myself to trust her, telling myself that love was about freedom. As she walked toward me, her skin tanned from the Mediterranean sun, her curls bouncing with each step, I braced myself for the reunion I had imagined countless times. I pictured her running into my arms, whispering, "I missed you so much," or maybe even just saying, "I'm home." But when she finally reached me, she hugged me tight, her lips brushing my ear as she whispered something that sent a chill racing down my spine. "You better not go anywhere." Her voice wasn't playful, wasn't teasing. It was sharp, commanding, almost desperate. I froze, the warmth I had felt a second ago evaporating. I laughed nervously, brushing it off. "Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere," I replied lightly, but her words lingered, echoing in my head as we walked out of the terminal hand in hand. Why would she say that? Why would that be the first thing on her lips after a month apart? Her warning hung over me like a dark cloud. I didn't know it then, but those words would unravel everything I thought I knew about my wife, my marriage, and the life we had built together. Emily and I had been married for 5 years, and for the most part, our life together felt steady, if not picture-perfect. We lived in a small 2-bedroom apartment on the edge of town. Nothing luxurious, but cozy in the way that made every corner feel like ours. She was an artist, a painter, who could turn even a blank canvas into something that breathed life. I, on the other hand, worked a regular office job at a logistics company. My days were filled with spreadsheets, schedules, and endless meetings, while hers were a swirl of colors, ideas, and late nights in her studio. People often said we balanced each other out. She was the dreamer, I was the realist. And maybe that's why I didn't question her when she told me she needed a break. One evening, about 2 months ago, Emily had walked into the living room, her eyes bright with an excitement I hadn't seen in a long time. "I'm thinking of taking a trip," she said casually, almost as if she were suggesting a walk to the park. "A trip? Where?" I asked, lowering the remote. "Europe. Maybe Italy, maybe France. Just me. I need inspiration. I feel stuck," she admitted, her fingers fiddling with the hem of her shirt. At first I hesitated. "A whole month away? Without me?" It wasn't the kind of thing most couples did. But the way she spoke about it, the way her eyes glimmered with hope, I couldn't bring myself to say no. "Go," I told her finally. "If it makes you happy, go." I didn't realize how much I would miss her until she was gone. Nights felt empty, without her voice echoing through the apartment. Mornings felt too quiet, without her humming while she made coffee. I tried to keep busy, working late, hitting the gym, catching up with old friends, but there was always this hollow ache in my chest. Still, I held on to the belief that she would come back to me, refreshed, recharged, and more in love than ever. That's why her words at the airport struck me so hard. After all that distance, after all that time apart, instead of "I missed you," she gave me a warning. Emily's departure was harder on me than I admitted to anyone. When she first left for Europe, I told my friends and co-workers that I was proud of her, that I wanted her to chase her art, that I was fine being alone for a while. But the truth? Every day without her felt like a test I hadn't prepared for. The first week, I tried to stay upbeat. She sent photos of Roman streets, sunlit piazzas, and endless plates of pasta. Her messages were full of excitement. "The Colosseum is even bigger than I imagined." Or "I painted by the Trevi Fountain today. It felt magical." I smiled at her words, happy she was enjoying herself. But as the days passed, her messages grew shorter. "A quick, busy day, I'll text later," replaced the paragraphs she used to send. Sometimes hours, whole days, would pass without a single word. When I called, she often didn't pick up, only replying later with a half apology. "Sorry, I was out with new friends. Talk tomorrow." I tried not to overthink it. She was in a new country, meeting new people, living her dream. I convinced myself that I was being selfish for wanting her constant attention. Back home, though, the silence was deafening. Our apartment felt too big without her laughter filling the rooms. Dinner became microwaved leftovers, eaten in front of the TV, and the bed felt like a vast, empty sea when I lay down at night. I kept her pillow close, clinging to the faint trace of her perfume, pretending she was still there. To distract myself, I threw myself into work. I stayed late at the office, volunteered for projects, and buried myself in numbers and emails. But no matter how busy I stayed, the loneliness always caught up with me. On weekends, I'd find myself scrolling through her social media, staring at the photos she posted, her smile radiant, her eyes shining brighter than I'd seen in months. She looked happy, too happy. One night, after a particularly long day, I opened Instagram and saw a picture she had uploaded. She was sitting at a small cafe in Florence, her hair glowing in the golden sunset. She wasn't alone. Across from her sat a man, his face partly hidden, but his posture leaned close toward her like there was no one else in the world. The caption read, "New friends make life richer." My chest tightened. Maybe it was innocent. Maybe he was just a fellow traveler. But something about the way she smiled, different, softer, almost secretive, made me feel like I was looking at a side of Emily I didn't recognize. I closed the app, telling myself I was imagining things, that she loved me, that after this trip, she'd come home and everything would fall back into place. I had no idea how wrong I was. Emily came home a month later, dragging her suitcase across the polished floor of the airport. I was waiting, heart pounding, rehearsing how I'd hug her, how I'd tell her how much I'd missed her. When she finally appeared through the arrival gate, she looked different. Not just tanned from the Italian sun, not just tired from the flight. Something else. Her eyes flicked toward me, sharp and almost guarded. She wrapped her arms around me tightly, whispering into my ear, "Don't go anywhere while I'm back, okay? No, I missed you. No, I'm so happy to see you." Just those words, strange and unsettling, like a warning. I laughed it off at first, brushing it aside as some weird joke. Jet lag, maybe. But in the car ride home, as the rain streaked across the windshield, her hand gripped my thigh. Not gently, not affectionately, but with a strange kind of possession. Like she was holding me in place. Something in me shifted that night. When we got home, she dropped her suitcase on the bedroom floor. Clothes spilled out, colorful dresses and silk blouses I'd never seen before. She'd gone shopping, clearly, but these outfits weren't her usual style. Emily had always loved simple, practical clothes. Jeans and sweaters, sneakers and ponytails. But now, flowing skirts, delicate blouses, even high heels. They screamed romance, not solo exploration. "Wow," I said, picking up a soft lavender dress. "This isn't really you, is it?" She snatched it from my hands too quickly. "Oh, I just wanted a change." "Europe does that to you." Her tone was light, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. That night, while she showered, I began tidying up her things, a habit she used to tease me about. As I shook out one of her carry-on bags, a folded receipt slipped to the floor. Curious, I picked it up. It was for a dinner. 2 entrees, a bottle of wine, and dessert at a seaside restaurant in Amalfi. Dated just 2 weeks ago, my heart sank. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe she went with a friend she'd met, another artist. She told me she'd been connecting with fellow travelers, but the thought twisted in my gut. Why hadn't she mentioned it? I tucked the receipt back, my hands trembling. The next morning, while she sipped coffee in the kitchen, I noticed something else. A necklace dangling from her neck. A silver chain with a pendant shaped like 2 intertwined vines. Beautiful, delicate. Not her usual style. New? I asked casually, pouring myself coffee. She hesitated, fingers brushing the pendant. "Oh yeah, just a little souvenir." I leaned closer. Tiny words were engraved on the back. I squinted. "Per sempre amore, forever my love." My throat went dry. "That's a pretty specific souvenir," she laughed nervously. "It's just Italian. Doesn't mean anything." She tucked the pendant under her blouse quickly. Like hiding, it would erase the weight of the words. I nodded. forcing a smile, but my chest was heavy. Over the next few days, the unease only grew. Emily clung to me more than before, showering me with touches and kisses, but they didn't feel the same. They weren't soft or spontaneous. They were urgent, desperate, as though she were covering something up. And then there was her phone. She guarded it like a diary. Whenever a notification buzzed, she angled the screen away, fingers moving quickly to silence it. Once, while we cooked dinner together, her phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced without thinking. The message preview read, "Miss you already. When can we—" Her hand darted out before I could see more. She forced a laugh, saying, "Oh, just an artist I collaborated with." Nothing important, but her voice trembled, and my stomach twisted harder. Something was wrong. Something big. And for the first time, I began to fear the truth. The unease had dug its claws deep into me. At first, I tried to shake it off, tell myself I was paranoid, that I was reading too much into small details. But the little signs began stacking up like puzzle pieces, and no matter how much I tried, they kept pointing to the same picture. Emily wasn't the same woman who had left a month ago. A week after she returned, I noticed her sleep, or rather the lack of it. Many nights, I woke to find her lying on her back, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. "What's wrong?" I whispered once, sliding closer. She jumped slightly, as though caught in the act of thinking. "Nothing," she said quickly, rolling into my chest. Just adjusting, but her body felt stiff, rigid, as if she were holding back tears. I wanted to press her, to demand answers, but the fear of hearing something I couldn't handle kept me silent. One morning, while she showered, I sat on the edge of the bed, scrolling through her Instagram. She'd posted only a handful of photos from her trip, all of them carefully framed, landscapes, ruins, sunsets. And though she was in them, I noticed something strange. She was always alone, always. It was as if someone had taken the pictures for her, but she made sure that no one else was ever in the frame. Then I saw it. A comment buried under hundreds of likes, bellissima as always. Counting the days, Marco Arte, my stomach lurched. I tapped the username. His profile loaded, an Italian painter. His page was filled with sketches of coastal landscapes, Roman ruins, and portraits. One portrait made my chest tighten like a vice. It was Emily, not a perfect likeness, but close enough that there was no mistaking the curve of her jaw, the wild curls of her hair, the gentle tilt of her head. The caption read, "Inspiration found in unexpected places." The date, 2 weeks ago. I felt the ground shift beneath me. I tried to act normal around Emily that day, but my head was spinning. That night, when she left her phone charging in the kitchen, I fought every instinct screaming at me not to invade her privacy. But my shaking hands picked it up anyway. Most of her texts were mundane. Friends, family, co-workers. But when I scrolled deeper, I found a string of deleted conversations. Empty gaps where messages should have been, and then in her email trash folder I saw it. Flight confirmation, Marco Rossi. My blood ran cold. A ticket purchased for a man flying into our city the following week. The subject line read, "Surprise visit." I dropped the phone on the counter, art hammering in my ears. Over the next few days, I watched Emily more carefully. She smiled at me, cooked dinner, kissed me goodnight, but it all felt rehearsed. Her phone never left her side. She took calls in the other room, whispering, her voice low and nervous, and then came the final straw. While doing laundry, I checked the pocket of one of her skirts. Inside, folded carefully, was a handwritten note on thick parchment paper. The handwriting was flowing, foreign. "Per sempre, amore mio. Ti penso ogni giorno. Forever, my love. I think of you every day." My hands shook so violently, I almost ripped the paper in two. There was no more denying it. The pieces were all there, the necklace, the receipt, the painting, the emails, the late-night whispers. Emily hadn't just taken a vacation. She had lived a second life, and I was the fool left holding the fragments of the first. The clues were everywhere now, but I still needed something undeniable, something I couldn't rationalize away with excuses like, "It's just a friend," or "You're overthinking." My gut screamed the truth, but my heart clung to hope. And that's when I turned to the one place where secrets often slip through, her phone and social media. Emily had always been relaxed about her phone before. She'd leave it lying around unlocked without a second thought. But since her return, it was glued to her hand like a lifeline. She kept the screen tilted away from me, even when just checking the time. If she left it charging, it was always face down, as though hiding its contents from view. One evening, while we were cooking together, her phone buzzed on the counter. I glanced at it instinctively. A message preview lit up the screen. "When can we talk?" "Miss you, Bella." My stomach tightened. Before I could read the rest, Emily lunged across the kitchen, snatching the phone so fast she nearly dropped the pan she was holding. "It's work," she said quickly, her cheeks flushed. "One of the artists I met. He's just..." Persistent, but her voice cracked at the edges. I wanted to believe her, but the lie hung in the air between us, thick and suffocating. That night, when she finally drifted off to sleep, I stared at the glow of her phone, charging on the nightstand. My conscience battled my desperation. For 10 minutes I sat in the dark, arguing with myself. If you love her, you'll trust her. But if you trust her, you'll never know the truth. Finally, my hand moved on its own. I picked up the phone. She had a passcode now. She'd never had one before. My chest tightened as I entered the obvious ones. Her birthday, our anniversary. Nothing worked. I almost gave up, until I remembered the necklace. Per sempre amore. I typed in EO 523, the date etched on the back of the pendant. The phone unlocked. My heart sank. Her messages told me everything I'd feared. Deleted threads, half-erased conversations, but not enough to cover the trail. A contact saved under just an initial. Scrolling through, I found messages that hadn't been deleted yet. "I can still feel your hand in mine. This distance is unbearable. Soon, amore. Don't let him suspect." My hands shook as I read, bile rising in my throat. Then came the photo. A selfie of Emily, her smile soft, her hair falling loose around her face. Behind her, blurred but visible, was a man's arm draped casually over her shoulder. Marco. I couldn't breathe. I switched to her email, heart hammering. The trash folder was a graveyard of carelessness. Among old receipts and travel itineraries, one stood out. "Your flight to New York is confirmed." It wasn't Emily's name on the booking. It was his. Marco Rossi, the same name I'd seen on Instagram. The man who had sketched her portrait. The email was dated just a few days earlier. He was coming here, to our city, to her. Suddenly, her strange words at the airport, "You better not go anywhere," crashed back into my mind. They weren't a joke. They weren't playful. They were a warning. She hadn't wanted me to leave because she needed me out of the way. Desperate for more proof, I pulled up Instagram again. Marco's profile was filled with images that now seemed sinister. Paintings of sunsets, cafes, the Amalfi Coast. And then, buried in a carousel of sketches, one hit me like a brick to the chest. It was Emily, not just a vague resemblance this time. It was her face, her eyes, her hair, her smile, captured in pencil lines with such intimacy it made my skin crawl. The caption read, "My muse, my forever inspiration." The date? Right in the middle of her solo vacation. I dropped the phone onto the bed, my hands trembling so violently I thought I might break it. There was no escaping it now. Emily wasn't just hiding something. She was building a life with someone else, even while standing in mine. And the worst part? She was planning to bring him here. The next morning, the weight of everything I'd uncovered pressed so heavily on my chest that I could barely breathe. I couldn't keep pretending anymore. The lies had stacked too high. I needed answers, even if they destroyed me. Emily was in the kitchen, humming softly as she poured coffee. For a moment, she looked like the woman I had fallen in love with. Hair tied loosely back, robe draped over her shoulders, sunlight catching her face. But all I could see were the messages. The necklace, the portrait, the plane ticket. I sat across from her, hands clenched into fists. "Emily," I began, my voice sharper than I intended. "Who's Marco?" The mug froze halfway to her lips. Her eyes flicked to mine, wide and startled. She forced a laugh that cracked halfway through. "Marco? He's just an artist I met during the trip. Why?" I leaned forward, my heart pounding in my ears. "Don't lie to me." I saw the messages. The necklace. The plane ticket for next week, her face drained of color. The mug clinked as she set it down too hard on the counter. You went through my phone? I slammed my fist against the table. Don't you dare turn this on me! I wouldn't have needed to if you hadn't been hiding things. For a long moment, silence filled the kitchen, broken only by the hum of the refrigerator. Emily's lips trembled. She looked down at her hands, twisting the pendant around her neck. Finally, she whispered, "Okay." "Fine, I met him in Florence. He was part of the art group I joined. We connected." Her words sliced through me. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to stay steady. "Connected?" I repeated, my voice raw. "You're telling me this was some innocent friendship?" "Because the messages I read don't sound innocent." "Miss you, amore. Is that how you talk to friends?" Her shoulders slumped. "It wasn't supposed to happen," she said softly, tears welling in her eyes. "I was alone. You were here working all the time, and Marco, he made me feel alive again. It was just a fling. It didn't mean anything." I shot to my feet, anger flaring. "Didn't mean anything? You spent a month with him. He's flying here to see you. He painted your face like you were his muse. That's not nothing, Emily. That's betrayal." She buried her face in her hands, sobbing now. "I didn't plan for it. I swear, at first he was just kind. He noticed me. He made me laugh. And I was so caught up in the moment, in the freedom of being away from home, away from responsibilities. One thing led to another, and..." Her voice cracked. "It just happened." My chest burned. 10 years of marriage reduced to "it just happened." I paced the kitchen, my footsteps loud against the hardwood. "And what about me, huh? Did you think about me at all while you were with him? Did you think about the vows we made, about everything we've built?" She wiped her tears with shaking hands. "Of course I did. I love you, Alex. I never stopped loving you. That's why I told you not to go anywhere, because I was scared you'd leave me if you found out." I stopped cold, her words echoing in my mind. "Not to go anywhere?" Suddenly, the meaning of her cryptic warning became clear. It wasn't about keeping me safe. It wasn't about us. It was about control. She wanted me here, trapped, while she balanced 2 lives. "Don't twist this," I snapped. "You weren't trying to protect me. You were protecting your lies." Emily's tears streamed freely now. "I ended it," she insisted desperately. "Before I came home, I told him it was over. That's why he's been messaging. I told him I couldn't keep it going. You're the one I want, Alex. Please believe me." But I remembered the email, the plane ticket confirmation in her trash folder. Her words didn't match her actions. "Then why's he flying here next week?" I asked, my voice low and trembling with rage. Her eyes widened, panic flashing across her face. She opened her mouth to speak, but no sound came out. That silence was louder than any confession. In that moment, I realized Emily hadn't told me the whole truth. She was giving me scraps, just enough to pacify me, hoping I'd forgive her. But behind those scraps was a deeper betrayal she was still hiding, and I wasn't sure I wanted to hear it. Emily sat across from me at the kitchen table, her face pale, eyes red from crying. Her words still echoed in the air. "I ended it. You're the one I want." But the ticket in her email trash told a different story. I pulled out my phone, scrolling quickly until the screen glowed with the damning evidence. I turned it toward her, then explained this. Her breath caught. Her trembling hand flew to her mouth. On the screen was the flight confirmation. Marco Rossi, arrival next week. Her tears fell harder. "Alex, it's not what you think." I slammed the phone on the table. "Don't you dare! Don't you dare tell me this is innocent. You said you ended it, but you were planning to bring him here, weren't you?" "No," she sobbed, shaking her head violently. "I didn't plan to bring him here. He bought the ticket himself. He said he wanted to surprise me. I swear I didn't invite him." Her voice cracked, desperate, but I saw the flicker in her eyes, the hesitation that betrayed her. I leaned forward, my hands pressed flat against the table. "So you didn't stop him? You didn't tell him not to come? You let him think he could fly across the ocean to see you while you were sleeping in my bed?" Her lips trembled. "I didn't know how to. I thought if I ignored him, he'd get the message. I didn't want to make things worse." My laugh was bitter, sharp. "Worse? Emily, it's already worse. You gave him hope. You let him believe he still had you. You let me stand here like a fool while he's planning a romantic reunion in my city." She buried her face in her hands, her voice muffled by her sobs. "I was scared. I didn't know how to handle it. I never wanted him here. I just— Stop!" I cut her off, my chest heaving. "Don't you get it? Your silence was permission. You may not have bought the ticket, but you didn't stop him either. That's as good as welcoming him." For a long moment the kitchen was silent, except for her quiet sobs. The sunlight streaming through the window felt cruel, as if mocking the storm raging inside me. I walked to the counter, gripping it tightly, trying to steady myself. Memories flashed through my mind like shards of broken glass. Our wedding day, lazy Sunday mornings, her laughter in the rain, all of it now tainted by the image of her in Italy, holding another man's hand. Finally, I turned back to her. My voice was low, broken. "That's why you warned me not to go anywhere, isn't it? Because you knew. You knew he was coming, and you didn't want me to find out." Her sobbing stopped. Slowly, she lifted her head, her tear-streaked face meeting mine. For a second there was no denial, no excuses, just silence, heavy and damning. That silence told me more than any confession could. The truth was undeniable now. Emily hadn't just made a mistake. She hadn't just slipped up. She had chosen. She had built something with Marco, and she had let it follow her home, and now it was crashing down around us. I grabbed my keys from the counter, my voice hoarse as I whispered, "I'm done, Emily. You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." Her chair scraped against the floor as she stood, reaching for me. "Alex, please!" "Don't leave. I'll fix this. I'll cancel everything. I'll block him. Just don't walk away." But I was already moving toward the door, her pleas echoing behind me. The last thing I saw as I stepped outside was her crumbling, collapsing into the chair, clutching the necklace that wasn't from me. The door clicked shut, final and cold, and just like that, the life we had built was over. The door shut behind me, and for the first time in weeks, maybe months, the world felt quiet. No more excuses, no more half-truths, just silence. I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel, staring at the empty street ahead. My chest ached, not just from anger, but from grief. Grief for the life I thought I had, for the woman I thought I knew, for the marriage I thought was unshakable. How did we get here? 10 years of love, laughter, and shared dreams, all undone by 30 days in a foreign city and one man named Marco. It wasn't just the betrayal of the body, it was the betrayal of trust. The betrayal of every promise whispered late at night, every forever we sealed with a kiss. And the hardest part? She didn't even fight for me until she was caught. As I sat there, tears blurring my vision, I realized something. Love without respect isn't love. Commitment without honesty isn't commitment. And forgiveness without truth. That's just self-destruction. Emily's lies had cut deep. But they also opened my eyes. I deserved better. I deserved someone who wouldn't run off to find excitement in another man's arms the moment things got hard. I deserved someone who wouldn't warn me not to go anywhere, just to keep me caged while she built another life behind my back. Maybe some people will say I should forgive her. That marriage is about second chances. But how do you rebuild on ashes when the fire is still burning? How do you trust again when every word feels like another blade, waiting to sink in? I took a deep breath, letting the weight of it all wash over me. The pain was unbearable. Yes, but hidden beneath it was something else. Freedom, the freedom to choose myself, the freedom to walk away from lies, from manipulation, from betrayal, and maybe, just maybe, the freedom to heal and find something real again. As the car engine roared to life, I whispered to myself, this isn't the end. It's the beginning of something new, and for the first time I believed it.